Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma 'allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilman ya rabbal alamin. Allahumma arzuqna al-ikhlasa fil aqwali wal a'mal. Allahumma ij'al 'amalana fi ridaka amin ya rabbal alamin. Alhamdulillah, this is our 29th class or maybe 30th class, 30, in the explanation of the book Umdah Taalib al-Ma'arif. And we are today going to cover Baabul Li'an, then the Bab concerning Ihdaad, the waiting periods of different kinds of women, and we'll also cover something related to Ihdaad, which is the mourning which the wife does for a husband who dies by leaving adornment and beautification. This is Ihdaad. Babu al-Li'an. Li'an is derived from the word La'an, which is curse. It is called li'an because it involves each of the two spouses invoking a curse upon themselves if they are lying. This is the linguistic derivation of the term. As for its technical definition, li'an is actually it is testimonies reinforced by oaths, ayman, from both the husband and the wife, accompanied by a curse or by Allah's wrath. Allah has mentioned its ruling in Surah An-Nur, beginning with His statement, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ أَزْوَاجَهُم وَالَّذِينَ يَرْمُونَ أَزْوَاجَهُم وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُمْ شُهَدَاءُ إِلَّا أَنفُسُهُم فَشَهَادَةُ أَحَدِهِمْ أَرْبَعُ شَهَادَاتٍ بِاللَّهِ, until the various verses after it which comes. So this is where li'an is mentioned. Whoever accuses his wife, man qazafa zawjatahu al-mukallafata bizinan falahu isqatul haddi bil-li'ani. Whoever accuses his legally accountable wife, mukallaf, yani aqil baligh, of zina, bizinan. Now, this is what the subject of this ruling. What will happen? Yani, by specifying al-mukallafa, yani whoever accuses his wife, who is accountable, legally accountable, mukallafa, with zina, then what will happen? This is the ruling. Falahu isqatul haddi bil. By specifying legally accountable, this excludes the one who is not legally accountable, such as Saghira, a young girl, because this ruling does not apply to her. Likewise, Majnuna, insane woman. Also, this ruling does not apply to her. She should be Mukallafa. That is, what does it mean? That is, the husband attributes her bizinan, attributes adultery to her, and accuses her of adultery. If the accuser is someone other than the husband, then this accusation is not accepted unless he is accompanied by three other witnesses, including him. So there should be four witnesses, including the person who is accusing, if he is not a husband. Because this ruling is only established with four witnesses. The ruling for zina is established with four witnesses or with the person's own confession. There are the only two ways by which the your punishment for zina is established. Either the person there should be four witnesses to it, those who have seen with their own eyes, not just one of them has seen and described it to three others. No, all those four must have seen this act to have occurred, plus they should have seen the penis penetrating and going inside the vagina of the woman clearly, and how much of penis should disappear, equivalent to hashafa. And we talked about hashafa, which is the beginning portion of the private part, which is like the initial portion of the private part. This is known as hashafa, the up to here. So this much should disappear, not just touching it, not only this much, but all of this round portion, the beginning, must disappear inside. This is when the ruling for uh, zina is established with four witnesses. Each one of them must have seen, or the person themselves. They confess that this has happened. The husband, however, is an exception to this rule. His testimony alone is accepted according to the rulings that will now be discussed here, inshallah. So the author, rahimahullah, he says, "Falahu isqatul haddi bil. Now, then, man qazafa zawjatuhu al mukallafa bizina falahu isqatul haddi bil. Meaning, he removes from himself the punishment, yani he may remove, it is permissible for him to remove from himself the punishment of false accusation, because qazf is actually accusation. You're accusing someone of something, especially of zina. You are accusing a woman of zina. So, if a person normally accuses someone of committing adultery without producing yani total four witnesses, including him, he is subjected to the punishment for false accusation, which is known as qazf, haddul qazf. They call it as haddul qazfi. Yani if someone accuses, if a person accuses another woman of adultery, and he is unable to produce total four witnesses, then he is subjected to the punishment of false accusation, which is known as haddul qazf, even if he is telling truth. But since he failed to produce three other witnesses, thus he is subjected to a punishment of false accusation, even if he is speaking truth. Why is this done? This is done to protect society from people becoming bold enough to accuse one another of immorality. This is the reason it is done, even if he is speaking truth. Only when four witnesses all testify to having witnessed the act, as will be discussed later, as it will come in the chapters, upcoming chapters on, the Kitabul Hudud, okay, the prescribed punishments. When four witnesses all testify to having witnessed the act, then only the accusation is accepted. If there are only one or two or three witnesses, then not only is the accusation rejected, but those who made the accusation are themselves punished with the prescribed punishment for qazf, false accusation, even if they were truthful. The husband, however, is a specific exception. If he performs the an, the punishment of this qazf called accusation, is lifted from him. Even though he is not accompanied by three more witnesses, still his testimony is accepted, and he will not be punished with the punishment of accusation, which are 80 lashes, as it will come in the chapter concern in the book of Jinayat. The author Rahimullah then explains how the li'an is performed. فَيَقُولُ أَوَّلًا, yani the husband will first say أربع مرات بالعربية إن عرفها أشهد بالله لقد زنت زوجتي هذه أو يسميها وينصبها إن غابت. So he says the husband first repeats his testimony four times in Arabic language, if he knows Arabic. The basic rule is that the li'an should be performed in the Arabic language if the person is capable of it, and it is not accepted in another language if he knows Arabic. If he does not know Arabic, then he performs it in whatever language he knows. What does he say? He says this: Ashhadu billahi laqad zanat zawjati hazihi, aw yusammiha wa yansibuha in ghabat. I be a witness by Allah that this wife of mine has committed adultery. If she is present, he points to her and says this one. If she is absent, he identifies her by mentioning her name and lineage. For example, so and so, daughter of so and so, like this. If she is not present there, if she is present, he will point with his finger like this one. All of this is done before the judge. He repeats this statement four times, exactly the same statement four times. Then on the fifth occasion, he adds وَيَزِيدُ فِي الْخَامِسَةِ, fifth time, he adds وَأَنَّ لَعْنَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ إِنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ, that may the curse of Allah be upon him, yani the husband himself, if if he is from amongst the liars. وَإِنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ. This is what he says in the fifth time. He says this statement to deter him from recklessly accusing his wife of this act while lying. As a means of frightening him, he is commanded to invoke Allah's curse upon himself if he is lying. For this reason, it is called liyan, because they are accusing own self of li'an, curse of Allah upon them. They are calling the curse of Allah upon them, and since this is mutual, both of them are doing so, it is known as li'an. Then the wife speaks. Also, this also happens before the judge. Summa taqulu hiya arba'u marratin. Then she says four times. What does she say? Exactly as he said earlier. Ashhadu billahi laqad kazaba fima ramani bihi min zina. I be a witness by Allah that he has lied in accusing me of adultery. And she also says this in Arabic if she knows. If otherwise, she says it in her own language. Then on the fifth occasion, she adds, وَأَنْ غَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهَا إِنْ كَانَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And may the wrath of Allah be upon yani woman, upon me, if this husband is among the truthful ones. When this process is completed, فَإِذَا تَمَّ سَقَطَ عَنْهُ الْحَدِّ. See, first thing, when this process is completed, that is after the husband has made his statements five times and the wife has made hers five times, four legal rulings result from it. First one, sakata anhul had. First thing, the punishment for qazf, false accusation, is lifted. The prescribed punishment is lifted. تم سقط عنه فإذا تم سقط عنه الحد أو التعزير. So either the had or the ta'zir. Ta'zir is a discretionary punishment. One of these two things can happen. Now, the first ruling is that the punishment is removed from the husband. Now, this punishment either could have been prescribed punishment had for false accusation, which is mentioned in the Quran, which is 80 lashes, or it could also be a discretionary punishment, which is known as ta'zir, to discipline someone. Why did the author say gives an option either this or this is either this? Why did he not very particularly said only the had is or the had is waived off from him or it is removed? The answer is that if the person being accused, yani the one who this man is accusing is a muhsana, yani the man is accusing the woman. Now, if this woman is known in the society as a outwardly chaste and morally upright woman, then the one who falsely accuses them receives the prescribed punishment for false accusation. So there is a difference who you are accusing. If you are accusing someone who is known in the society to be chaste and upright, morally upright, even if externally, then in that case, if you fail to produce four witnesses, then there is a had punishment of 80 lashes, which is known as haddul qasfi. If the one you are accusing is not Muhsan, she is not known, yani they are publicly known for immorality, they are publicly known for indecency, they are publically known for open sinfulness. Yani this woman is known publicly that she is immoral, she is indecent, she does sins openly. Then accusing such a woman of adultery does not incur prescribed punishment of 80 lashes. Rather, a discretionary punishment is issued by the judge. This is because Allah restricted but the punishment for false accusation to accusations against chaste individuals only. When he said, Wallazina yarmoon al muhsanati, those who accuse chaste women, he said muhsanati. The wording excludes those who are not chaste. Nevertheless, if a woman is publicly known for immorality and indecency, this still does not permit a person to accuse her of adultery. If he does so, when he has no witnesses, he is punished with ta'zir, meaning that the judge determines an appropriate disciplinary punishment according to his judgment. This is what ta'zir is. Yani he will not get punishment of 80 lashes, but whatever the judge will deem fit, he will give him punishment according to what he thinks and perceives to be suitable at this moment. This is the first legal consequence of li'an, that it removes from the husband either the had or the ta'zir, a discretionary punishment if the woman is not chaste, and prescribed punishment if the woman he is accusing of was chaste. Then in that case he has avoided the had the punishment, and if she was not chaste, then in any case he has avoided the discretionary punishment. Second ruling, waharumat alayhi abadan walau akdhaba nafsahu, she becomes permanently forbidden to him. Second ruling, once li'an has taken place, whether the husband was truthful or lying, one of its effects is that the spouses become permanently prohibited to one another for the entire or the rest of their lives. Even if the woman later marries 100 men, she can, and this man can never marry her again. Permanently separated. However, this permanent prohibition does not make them mahrams to each other, as we said earlier. He will not be a mahram. Rather, this is a permanent, yani she will permanently become forbidden to her, but she will not become a mahram. Then the author says, Walau akzaba nafsahu, even if the husband later declares himself to have been lying. Yani if even if he later says, I have changed my mind, or maybe I was lying, or okay, I take her back, I was lying, I wronged her. It makes no difference. Once he has completed the four testimonies before the judge and performed the lian, she becomes permanently forbidden to him forever. Second ruling. Third ruling, wantafa waladun in zakarahu fihi sarihan aw dhimnan. Third ruling is intifaul walad. Yani the child is disassociated from him, from the husband. Yani he will say, this child does not belong to me, if he explicitly or implicitly mentions this during the lian. So the child is no longer attributed to the man, provided that during the lian he either explicitly states this, that I disown this child, or something uh, in the implied meaning that he is denying the paternity of the child. In that case, the child is no longer legally attributed to him. However, if his statement during the lian contain no explicit or implicit denial of the child's lineage, then the child's lineage remains established and is not disassociated from him. So he should explicitly mention it while lian. The fourth ruling, which the Musannif Rahimullah has not mentioned here, however, there are some scholars consider it to be included under the ruling of permanent prohibition. Waharumat alayhi abadan. They are scholars who consider it to be part of this only, which is the spouses must be separated. In other words, once a husband performs li'an against his wife, they cannot simply say we have reconciled and will remain together. Rather, the marriage must be dissolved and the two must be separated whether the husband agrees or refuses. After that, as already explained, they remain permanently forbidden to one another for the rest of their lives. First loan. إذا ولدت زوجة ابن عشر فأكثر لنصف سنة منذ أمكن اجتماعه بها أو لدون 4 سنين من إبانتها لاحقه نسبه ولا يحكم ببلوغه إن شك فيه. Now this chapter is concerning lineage, nasab. What is established and what is not. Although not all of the issues discussed here, yani in this chapter, are directly related to the chapter of lian, but as we said earlier, the fuqaha often they mention matters that do not fit neatly under a general or specific chapter by placing them under the chapter that most closely resemble. As we said earlier in Babul Hajar, when we were talking in Kitabul Buyu, the fuqaha they normally speak about the when does a child becomes baligh. They discuss it there, or what are the signs of bulu. They discuss it along with the chapter of Hajar because it suits there. It suits there. It fits there perfect. Likewise here, since lian includes the issue of negating lineage, they followed, yani the fuqaha, they followed it with a chapter explaining when the lineage is attributed to the father. So the author rahimahullah he says, if the wife of a 10-year-old boy, if the wife of a 10-year-old male or older than 10-year-olds gives birth to a child after 6 months. So here he is actually explaining what is the minimum period of pregnancy and what is the maximum period of pregnancy according to the fuqaha. So if the wife gives birth to a child, then the fundamental principle regarding the establishment of lineage is that it is established by the birth of a child to a woman who is considered firash for her husband. A firash is a lawful marital bed. This is based upon the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, Al waladu lil firashi, the child belongs to the lawful marital bed. So what does firash mean? It means that the woman is under the marriage bond of her husband and that it was possible for them to have met. This is what is mean by firash. The woman is under the marriage bond of her husband and that it was possible for them to have met. Nothing more than this is required in order to establish the lineage. We do not need DNA testing, nor do we need proof that they actually met. Rather, the possibility of their meeting is sufficient. It is if it was possible for them to meet, and if afterwards, yani after passage of 6 months, a child is born, then that particular child is attributed to the man. Very simple. In Islam, this is how it is done. We do not require witnesses to testify that they actually met. It is enough that it was possible for them to meet. For example, that they were living in the same town during a period in which meeting could naturally have occurred. Khalas. This reflects the Sharia's strong desire to establish and preserve the lineages. That is the basic principles. So when is a woman considered a lawful marital bed? When is a woman considered a lawful marital bed? When is she considered firash? Al waladu lil firash, when they say. The author rahimahullah he says, if the wife of a 10-year-old or older gives birth, so the husband must be 10 years old or older than 10 or more than 10. This is the first thing. If he is younger than 10 years old, then as has already been mentioned repeatedly, that the marriage contract itself is still valid, even if he is younger than 10. But the child will not be attributed. A child is not attributed to him unless he has reached the age of 10 years or more. So the male should be 10 years or more. After 6 months, لِنِصْفِ سَنَةٍ مُنْذُ أَمْكَنَ اجْتِمَاعُهُ بِهَا. After 6 months from the time it became possible for him to have met her. For example, a man marries a woman. They live in the same town. Neither of them is imprisoned or prevented from movement or meeting each other. In other words, it is possible, or it was possible for them to have met after the marriage contract. There was possibility of them to have met after the marriage contract. Then 1 year later, she gives birth. Immediately, the child is attributed to the father. There is no need for a court. There is no need for witnesses. There is no need for DNA testing. Nothing further is required. This child is immediately attributed to this man because al waladu lil firash. Likewise, if she gives birth after 9 months, yes, the child is attributed to him. Even if she gives birth after 6 months, the child is attributed to him because this is the minimum period, as we said. However, if she gives birth after 5 months of the possibility of having met, no, the child is not attributed to him because the minimum period of pregnancy is 6 months. Why did the scholars make 6 months the minimum period for attributing a child to the father? Because it is the minimum period of or duration of pregnancy. How did they determine that the minimum period of pregnancy is 6 months? It was deduced through the reasoning or ijtihad of the Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib radhiyallahu anhu from the two verses of the Quran. The first verse is Allah's statement, وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ ثَلَاثُونَ شَهْرًا. His gestation and weaning together are 30 months. The second verse is in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِينَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ هَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَ. هَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ. Haul is 12 months. Hawlain 24 months. 2 years. And it was Ali ibn Abi Talib anhu who deduced this ruling, and from him the Muslims adopted this understanding. So he derived the minimum duration of pregnancy from these two verses. Hamluhu fisaluhu salasuna shahra. Haml is known, pregnancy. What is fisal? Fisal is, it refers to breastfeeding. So hamluhu wa fisaluhu in total is 30 months together. Yani haml plus fisal is 30 months. And the second verse says, "Wal walidatu yurdina awladahunna hawlaini kamilaini." The second verse says breastfeeding is for 24 complete months, 2 complete years, which is 24 months. A simple mathematical calculation gives us the answer. 30 months minus 24 months equals to 6 months. We have two variables, we have one known, one unknown. We have two variables, we have one unknown. We can solve the equation. The known quantities are the total duration of pregnancy and breastfeeding, which is 30 months. And we also know the duration of breastfeeding, which is 24 months. If you want to calculate the duration of pregnancy, just subtract the two, 30 minus 24, you will get the minimum duration of pregnancy, which is 6 months. This is how the fuqaha, Ali ibn Abi Talib who derived 6 months, and then the fuqaha, they took it from there. Therefore, if a 10-year-old boy marries a girl who is 9 years old or older, and it was possible for them to meet, then if she gives birth after 6 months or more, whether the child is male or female, yani the child who is born, the child is immediately attributed to the boy who is 10 years old. Yani he will get a lineage. This is what he said. In waladat zawjatu bni ashrin fa aksar bi nisfi sanatin munzu amkana ijtima'u biha. Oh, and here he is giving the maximum. What is the maximum period of pregnancy according to Islam? So this is the minimum period. The author rahimahullah then he says, or less than 4 years after her separation from him. Lahiqahu nasabahu. In both these cases, the nasab, the lineage is attributed to the man. So he's discussing the maximum duration of pregnancy. Suppose a man separates from his wife, whether through khul or talaq. The important point is that he separated from her, either through a minor irrevocable separation, bainuna sughra, or bainuna kubra, a major irrevocable separation. The major irrevocable separation is after the third divorce, after which she cannot return to him until she marries another husband, and then all that process which we discussed earlier. The minor irrevocable divorce, which is a separation, is bainuna sughra. It occurs after the first or second divorce if he did not take her back during the iddah and the waiting period expired. Then this is known as bainuna sughra, and in this case, the husband can marry the same woman again with a new marriage contract, with all fulfilling the arkan and the shurut of the marriage. Suppose that after 1 year, this woman gives birth to a child and says the child belongs to that man. Yes, it will be attributed. Then he says, what if it is after 2 years, or after 3 years, or after 4 years? The author says up to 4 years. Liduni arba'in sinina min ibanatiha lahiqahu nasaba. Up to 4 years. Yani they separated. After they separated, the wife gives birth to a child after 1 year. attributed to the man. After 2 years, attributed to the man. After 3 years, attributed to the man. Up to 4 years, less than 4 years, attributed to him. This is because, according to the fuqaha, the maximum duration of pregnancy is 4 years. This is because what they witnessed in their times. What they witnessed in their times. Based on that, they have ruled it this way. Even uh, during the time of Sheikh bin Baz, which is not something which we are going too far or back in time. During the time of Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah, I heard that he had seen a woman with 7 years of pregnancy after 7 years. So there are things, but however, today modern medicine may enter into this issue, and its conclusions may be given consideration. Yani, can this child truly be his or not? There is no objection to taking into account the medical advice and scientific indications after the tremendous advances in the medicine in our time. Suppose she gives birth 2 years after their separation and attributes the child to him. Earlier Fuqaha did not possess today's medical developments and advancement. They did not had that. Today, however, the judge may consult medical experts and rule according to what appears correct to him. So today we can rely on the medical science because of the advancements that have occurred in the medical science and the modern medical science. Then the author Rahimahullah says his lineage is attributed to him in both the cases. If the child is born after 6 months of possible meeting, or or less than 4 years of their separation. In both these cases, the child is attributed to the man. Wala yuhkamu bi bulughihi in shukka fihi. But this boy, the 10-year-old boy, or the one this 10-year-old boy, or the one who is more than 10 years old but has not yet reached uh, uh, you know puberty, he will not be judged. He will not be judged to have puberty if there is doubt concerning him reaching puberty. Yani, uh, earlier we said that the child is attributed to this boy who is 10 years or more than 10 years but has not yet reached the age of puberty. So the child will be attributed to him. If we attribute this child to him because it was born 6 months after the marriage or within 4 years after separation, less than 4 years after separation, we do so based on the predominance of probability. Ghalabatu zan. We do not do it on absolute certainty. It is on the basis of ghalabatu zan. This does not mean that we judge the husband to have reached puberty. The fuqaha considered both possibilities, that he may have reached puberty and that he may not have reached puberty. They chose the ruling that preserves the child's lineage because the Sharia strongly seeks to ensure that children have recognized lineage. This is the reason they attributed the child to him when he was born after 6 months of possible meeting, or uh, before 4 years of separation. Why? In order to uh, ensure that the child have recognized lineage. It desires that the Sharia desires that through even the slightest legitimate connection, a child should have a legally established father rather than remain without a lineage. This is what the Sharia encourages and what Sharia desires. Therefore, they exercised caution by attributing the child to the father. At the same time, they exercised caution in the opposite direction by not ruling that the husband had reached puberty. Because the basic principle is that puberty has not yet been established. This is the basic principle. It will be established with some proofs. There are indications to it, as we studied in the Baabul Hajr, in the chapter concerning Hajr. So the Musannif Rahimahullah says, but he is not judged, the boy is not judged to have reached puberty if there is doubt. If doubt exists, we say the child is attributed to him, but we do not rule that he has reached puberty. Why? Preserving the child's lineage on one hand while avoiding declaring the young husband legally mature without certainty. So, both the angles have been taken into consideration. Then the author Rahimahullah says, وَإِنْ اعْتَرَفَ بِوَطْءِ آمَتِهِ وَلَوْ دون الفرج فولدت لستة أشهر فأكثر لهقه نسبه إن لم يدعي استبراء بعده ويحلف عليه. Now this is concerning a slave woman under a master. So if a master acknowledges having had relationship with his slave woman, even if not walau dun al farji, even if it is not like vaginal, and she gives birth after 6 months or more after this meeting, then the child's lineage is attributed to this master. So we are talking about the child born to a slave woman, ama. simply by giving birth, if the master acknowledges having had physical relationship with her, even if the not through relationship in the vagina, and she gives birth after 6 months or more, the child is attributed to this master. It will be said that he is the father of this child, provided that he does not claim illam yaddai istibra and badaw. He does not claim to have performed istibra afterwards. What does istibra mean? Istibra, it means that he refrained from approaching her physically until she completed one full menstrual cycle. And after the Ama, slave woman, completed one full menstrual cycle, he refrained from approaching her. If he claims this, then no. Also, he must swear, he must take an oath. وَيَحْلِفُ عَلَيْهِ. He must also swear to this. Why? Because once he acknowledges having had a relationship with her, she becomes a firash for him. This woman becomes a firash for him. Merely by becoming his firash, her child is immediately attributed to the master. However, if he performed istibra, she ceases to be considered his firash, and therefore the child is not attributed to him, and this has to be done accompanied with the half, or this swearing or taking an oath. Then he says, if wa in ba'aha ba'da wat'iha fawaladat liduni nisfi sanatin lahiqahu nasabuhu wa batala al-bay'u. Now, if this master sells this woman after having relationships with her, and she gives birth before 6 months have elapsed. If she gives birth before 6 months have elapsed, that is, he sold her and then she gave birth less than 6 months later, after 1 month or after 2 months or after three, four, five, up to 6 months, less than 6 months. If this woman, slave woman, gives birth after in less than 6 months after he sold her, then the child's lineage is attributed to this master, because it is known with certainty that it occurred while while she was under her possession, and the sale will become invalid. Sale of this ama, this slave woman, will be invalid. Why it is invalid? Because actually he is selling walad, and it is prohibited to sell walad, because we talked about this earlier. Who is walad? The walad is a woman who bears or who bore a child for the master. Such a woman is known as walad. She cannot be sold because she became walad, and she will immediately become free after the death of the master. Then the author rahimahullah, he says, وَتَبِعَةُ نَسَبٍ لِيَبٍ وَهُرِّيَةٍ أَوْ رِقٍ لِأُمٍّ. This is a qaida. Lineage follows the father, while freedom or slavery follows the mother. This is a well-known legal principle. A child follows his father in lineage. The mother's lineage has no effect upon the child's legal lineage. It is always attributed to the father. As for freedom or slavery, whether the child is free or slave, it depends on the status of mother. If the father is free but the mother is a slave woman, then if the man married her through a marriage contract, and if a free man marries a slave woman according to a valid marriage contract, the children born from her are slaves. They are considered to be slaves unless a condition to the contrary had been stipulated in the marriage contract. That's a different story. This is the basic principle. If a free man marries a slave woman, and if children are born out of this marriage, then the children will be considered to be slaves. For this reason, the Sharia prohibited marrying slave women except under specific conditions, which we talked earlier. So, if she is a slave woman, however, if she is a slave woman whom the master owns, rather than yani the master did not, because as you know, a master who owns a slave woman, it is permitted for him to have relationship with the slave woman. So, if a child is born out of such relationship, then this woman will become Walad if she gives birth to a child. In this case, the child does not follow the lineage of the mother, rather, this child will follow the lineage of the father. Sorry, the status of freedom or slavery according to the father. So, if the master is obviously, if he's a master, is a free man, thus the child will be considered to be free, not slave. Then he says, okay, okay, here the chapter has ended, but anyway, there is something more to it. Uh, Likewise, the child follows the better of his two parents in religion. Better of the two parents in religion. For example, if a Muslim man married a disbelieving man, Muslim woman married a disbelieving man, This disbelieving man could be anyone. It could be from Jew or Christian or polytheist, anyone. But the woman is Muslim. Again, this is incorrect. A Muslim woman cannot marry a disbelieving man, and it is impermissible. But suppose it happened and they had a child, then Islam considers the child to be Muslim because the child follows the uh, better of the two parents in religion, and it is very clear that Islam is the best religion. So, if the mother is Muslim, the child will be a Muslim. Likewise, if both parents are non-Muslims, for example, the mother is Christian and the father is an atheist or a polytheist or a Hindu, whoever. So we consider the child to be Christian because Christianity is considered better than any other, better than atheism or better than polytheism. And so it is in similar kind of cases. Now we are entering into Kitabul Idad, the book of Idda, waiting periods. The word Al-Idad is the plural for Idda, and the Idda is a legally prescribed period of waiting. And this term is derived from numbering or counting, adad, from adad. So this term is derived from numbering or counting because the woman she counts the days until this waiting period comes to an end. She counts it. Thus it takes the name Idda. Idad is the plural. Thus al-Idda refers to the periods prescribed by the Sharia for particular circumstances during which a woman must wait. The woman observing this period is called al-Mu'tadda and the period itself is called the Idda. The duration and types of iddah differ according to the type of separation that occurred, whether through death or divorce. They also differ according to the condition of the woman, such as whether she menstruates, whether she is pregnant, or she falls under another category, as will be explained. Now, Musannif Rahimullah will give six types of a woman and their iddah period. The author Rahimullah says, تلزم لوفاة مطلقا ومفارقة في الحياة وإن دخل أو خلا بها وكان ابن عشر فأكثر. The idda becomes obligatory upon woman because of death in all circumstances. Mutlaqan, all circumstances. This means that the waiting period following the husband's death is obligatory regardless of the state of the marriage or the condition of the woman. It makes no difference whether the marriage was consummated or not, whether the wife was young or old, it doesn't matter. There is an idda of 4 months and 10 days. For example, if a man concluded a marriage contract with a woman and died 5 minutes later, she would still be required to observe the waiting period of death, even if she had never seen him with her own eyes. Her waiting period would be 4 months and 10 days. This is why the author Rahimahullah said that the waiting period is obligatory because of that unconditionally mutlaqan, meaning regardless of her particular circumstances. The author Rahimahullah then mentioned separation due to separation during the husband's lifetime. وَمُفَارَقَةٍ فِي الْحَيَاةِ. Separation during life may take place through talaq or through khul or through fasq. So the waiting period following separation during life is obligatory only if the husband consummated the marriage with her or was in valid seclusion with her. So talzamu li wafatin, likewise talzamu li mufaraqatin fil hayati in the khala aw khala biha, only in these two situations. If he has not consummated the marriage, then there is no waiting period upon that woman. So if the mufaraqa, the separation occur in the lifetime of the husband through any of these means, either talaq or khul or fasq, then in this situation also the woman must observe waiting period, but with the condition that either the marriage was consummated by the husband or there was a valid seclusion between them. As for a woman whose marriage was neither consummated nor followed by a valid seclusion, then she has no waiting period as it has come in the Quran. For example, if a man married a woman but neither saw the other, he neither consummated the marriage nor remained alone with her, and then he divorced her, she would have no waiting period. Immediately she will become free. As Allah says in the Quran, فَمَا لَكُمْ عَلَيْهِنَّ مِنْ عِدَّةٍ تَعْتَدُّونَهَا. Those women with whom you have not consummated the marriage, then they will have no waiting period. Then the author Rahimahullah he says, uh, provided that he was 10 years old or older, that is the age of the husband at which physical meeting was possible. Physical meeting is considered possible is 10 years. If he is younger than 10, then no waiting period becomes obligatory upon woman because of in favor of this man. Yani if this boy dies or if something happens, then no waiting period. Yani if they separate. So the age is 10 years. Age of the man should be 10 years. Who died or from who this woman is separated. Consummation through physical relationship is known, is well known. But as for the seclusion that makes the waiting period obligatory and also makes the full dowry obligatory, it has five conditions. We talked about this earlier. As we said, the first condition is that the seclusion, yani first condition for a valid seclusion is that the seclusion must occur with the consent of the woman. Yani the woman must willingly agree to the seclusion. It must not be forced upon her. Both spouses must be willing and neither may be compelled. The second condition is that both spouses must be aware of the seclusion that they are alone here. The seclusion must occur with the knowledge of both spouses. For example, if they happen to be in the same place alone, but either both of them or only one of them is aware that the other is present, then this is not regarded as a valid seclusion. Also, there must be no impediment to physical relationship. There must be no legal, physical, or medical obstacle preventing them physical relationship. Like, for example, the woman is menstruating, or for example, both of them are fasting the month of Ramadan, like if it is the daytime of Ramadan, or for example, both or one of them is in the state of ihram, or maybe one of them is ill, or there is a physical obstruction such as inna, husband is, he is important, or for example, the vaginal closure like ratak or anything similar. So, in brief, physical relationship must be possible legally, physically, and medically. If this is there, then we see the fourth condition. The fourth condition is that the woman must be of an age at which intercourse is considered possible, which means this age is 9 years or more than 9 years. If she is less than 9 years and if they are alone or they are in seclusion, no, this is not considered to be a valid seclusion. Likewise, the age of the husband should be 10 years or greater than 10 years. This is what the Musannif Rahimahullah has mentioned. Only one condition he has mentioned. Wakana ibnu Ashrin Faksar. He must be 10 years or old or older than 10 years. When these five conditions are fulfilled, the seclusion is considered complete and legally effective. It establishes entitlement to the full dowry and it also makes the waiting period obligatory just as if the marriage had been consummated. So these are the five conditions. Author Rahimullah mentioned only one of them. Then the author Rahimahullah he says, Wal mu'taddatu sittun. The women who observe waiting periods are six categories. So he will now list all six of them, beginning with Al Hamil, the waiting period of the pregnant woman. He says, Wa'iddatuha min wafatin wa ghayriha wad'u ma tasiru bihi amatun umma walad. The first category is the category of a woman who is pregnant. Her idda, whether it is because of the death of husband or because of separation, is delivering the child. So he says it ends when she delivers that which would make its mother an umma walad. And we already talked about this that when does a woman becomes umma walad? When she bears a child for her master and the child comes out into the world alive. How do we know that the child comes out alive? If he screams after coming out, if he cries, then this is what makes this woman a umma walad. So likewise, if a child comes out or born alive or comes out into dunya alive, how do we know he has come out alive? If he cries, if he screams. This is how we come to know. So the idda for a pregnant woman is until she delivers the child. If a woman is divorced while pregnant, or if her husband dies while she is pregnant, then in every circumstance, her waiting period ends upon delivery. Because Allah says in the Quran, "Wa ulatul ahmali ajaluhunna an yadana hamlahunna." Even if she gives birth one day after her husband's death, her waiting period ends. Yani today, for example, the husband died. If the husband dies today and the wife gives birth tomorrow, she is no longer in the waiting period. Immediately tomorrow she will come out of the waiting period, provided that his death occurred before the delivery, even 1 hour before delivery. Still, even 30 minutes before delivery, still she will come out of waiting period after half an hour, after 1 hour. The same ruling applies if the husband divorced her. Our waiting period may therefore last up to 9 months, or it may last only maybe few hours, depending upon the stage of pregnancy and the delivery. The author Rahimahullah then said, Her waiting period following death or any other separation such as divorce ends by delivering that which would make its mother an walad. What does it mean by that which would make its mother an walad? As we said earlier, the delivered child must have recognizable human formation and it must be alive. This is regarded as a legally effective birth. And also, the minimum duration of pregnancy is 6 months, and it has already been explained how this ruling was derived. So, this is what he is mentioning. وَأَقَلُّ مُدَّةِ حَمْلٍ سِتَّةُ أَشْهُرٍ وَغَالِبُهَا تِسْعٌ, and the usual duration of pregnancy is 9 months. وَأَكْثَرُهَا أَرْبَعُ سِنِينَ, and the maximum, according to the fuqaha, is 4 years. This was also discussed previously. Second category of woman is al mutawaffa anha zawjuha bila hamlim minhu. Second category is the category of a woman who is not pregnant, but the husband has died. Her husband has died and she is not pregnant. So for in her case, fata'taddu al hurratu bi arba'ati ashhurin wa ashra ayyamin bi layaliha wal amatu nisfuha. The second category is a woman whose husband dies while she is not pregnant. Bila hamlim minhu. This ha is going back to this zawj. Why he added this minhu? She is not pregnant from him because she might be pregnant through unlawful relationship. But that pregnancy is unrelated to the deceased husband's lineage and does not affect this ruling. A free woman whose husband dies while she is not pregnant through him must observe a waiting period of 4 months and 10 days if she is free, including their nights. So not only days but days and nights, 4 months, 10 days. And a slave woman will observe half of it, which means 2 months and 5 days. Again, this is based on the verse in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَالَّذِينَ يُتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ وَعَشْرًا. 4 months and 10 days. Thus, a woman whose husband dies while she is not pregnant must observe a waiting period of 4 months and 10 days. A slave woman observe half of this, which is 2 months and 5 days. Third category, al-mufaraqatu fil hayati bila hamlin. So, this category was a woman whose husband has died, but she is not pregnant. Here, a woman whose husband is alive and they have separated by whatever means and she is not pregnant, bina hamlin. Then this category has further division. So the third category is a woman who is separated during the husband's lifetime while not pregnant and who observes menses, zatul akra, from Kuru. She is the one who experiences menstrual cycle. So separation during life could occur either through talaq or through khul or through annulment, or through fasq, any of these form. So a free woman in this case shall observe for hurratu bisalasati quru. A free woman must observe three cycles, which in according to the Hanabila means three full cycles. While he says wahiya lahiyat wal amatu Quran. While a slave woman must observe only two menstrual periods. So if a woman is divorced and she normally menstruates, her ruling is based on the statement of Allah wal mutallaqatu yatarabbasna bi anfusihinna salasata quru. Qur. The word qur in the Arabic language may mean actual menses and it may also mean the period of purity between the menstrual cycles. It is therefore one of the words known as al-adad, meaning the words that may denote a meaning as well as its opposite meaning. The same word can mean one thing and it can also mean the opposite thing. And the well-known linguist Ibn al-Ambari, rahimahullah, he authored a work collecting such words entitled Kitabul Azdad, and he included the word pur among them, that it could mean the menses itself and it could also mean the period of purity. This is the reason the fuqaha differed over whether the qur it means the menses or purity. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah chose the view that it means menses. So according to the waiting period of a accordingly the waiting period of a menstruating woman consists of three complete menstrual cycle, which means she will menstruate first time, then become pure. This is one cycle completes. Then the menses come second, then she becomes pure. This is second. Then the menses come for the third time, and then the moment she becomes pure, and she takes a bath, performs the ritual bath. At that time, her waiting period will end. Thus, the author Rahimullah said that the free woman observes three qur, meaning three full menstrual periods. The view was narrated from Umar, Ali, and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhum ajma'in. The slave woman observes only two menstrual periods, and we talked about this earlier because she is half of a free woman. Since half of 3 is 1.5, there is nothing like half period, so it is rounded up to 2. However, it must be known that if a woman is divorced while menstruating, such a divorce is innovated. It is bid'i, as we said earlier, and it is prohibited form of divorce. Nevertheless, it still takes effect. Now, does the menstrual period during which the divorce occur count as one of the three or not? The answer is it is not. And if it is a bid'i divorce which occurred during the menses of the woman, then it is not regarded. It will not be counted. The counting will begin from the next one. So if she is divorced while menstruating, then the menstrual period in which the divorce occurred is not counted. She must wait until she menstruates again. This will be her first one until she becomes pure, then the second and the third. Likewise. So one of the reasons why divorce during menstruation is prohibited is that it prolongs the waiting period of a woman. So this was the third category. The fourth category is mallam tahid لصغر أو إياس المفارقة في الحياة. So here this is the fourth category, a woman who does not menstruate either because of young age or because of menopause. So what happens in her case? Al mufaraqatu fil hayat, if she is separated in the lifetime of the husband. Fal hurratu salasatu ashur. Free woman, if she is free woman, she will observe waiting period for 3 complete months, 3 lunar months. So Segar means a girl below the normal age of menses, such as one younger than 9, and a woman older than 50, because this is what in the Mazhab is considered to be a woman who has reached the age of menopause. So, if such a woman is divorced or otherwise separated during the husband's lifetime, then a free woman must observe a waiting period of 3 months, and a slave woman must observe a waiting period of 2 months. Again, following the though it is possible to count 1.5 months, but since in the earlier case we converted the iddah to 2 cycles, likewise here, in order to match up with that, the fuqaha said it should be 2 months. This is again based on the statement of Allah, wallahi ya'isna min al-mahidi min nisaikum in irtabdum fa'iddatuhunna salasatu ashhur wallahi lam yahidna. These are the two categories of women whose waiting period is to be counted according to the months, which is 3 months. One, who are in the stage of iyas and across the age of menses, and also the one who has not yet reached the age of menses, which is less than 9 months, 9 years. So those who have despaired of menstruation refers to women whose menstruation has ceased because of old age, 50 plus, and those who have not menstruated refers to girls below the age of 9 years. So, and a slave woman observes 2 months, again based upon the ruling of Umar Raziallahu anhu, who said that the waiting period of an walad is 2 menstrual periods. So, based on that, and it's the same ruling of 3 months applies to a woman who has reached puberty but has never experienced menses or postnatal bleeding. How can a woman reach puberty without having menstruated or experienced postnatal bleeding? And she may reach the age of 15 years, but still not. It is possible she did not menstruate but reached the age of 15 years. And we said earlier that bulugh is established by any one of 3 matters in case of males and one of 4 matters in case of females. It is not necessary that all 4 of them must occur. Number one, experiencing emission, wet dream; second, growth of pubic hair; third, reaching the age of 15 years, 15 lunar years; and fourth sign added to in case of women of puberty is beginning of menses. But any one of these is sufficient to establish puberty. So it may be possible that the woman reaches the age of 15, but she does not menstruate. Still, she will be labeled baligh. Therefore, if a woman has not menstruated by the time she reaches 15 years of age, she is nevertheless considered legally mature, baligh, even though she has not experienced the menstrual bleeding. Then the author Rahimahullah says the same applies to one who has reached puberty but has not experienced menstruation or postnatal bleeding. Since she does not menstruate, her waiting period will be only 3 months. Then the fifth category, man irtafa haiduha walam tadri sababahu fatatarabbasu tis'ata ashhurin lilham summa ta'taddu al-hurra bi salasati ashhurin wal amatu bi shahrayn. Fifth category is the category of a woman whose menstruation has stopped, but she does not know why. And she is neither less than the age of menstruation, and she is neither less than 9 years of age, nor she has reached the age of 50 plus. But still, uh, her menses have stopped and she does not know the reason why it happened. She is not suffering from a disease. She is not breastfeeding. She is not pregnant. She does not know why her menses have stopped. Such a woman has not yet reached even 50 years of age. So she does not even fall under the previous ruling of counting 3 months. So author Rahimullah said in their case, she has to, if she is a hur, free woman, then there is a different idda. If she is ama, the idda is different. Musannif Rahimullah says she must wait for 9 months to determine whether she is pregnant. Once it becomes clear after 9 months that she is not pregnant, then she must observe the idda or a waiting period of 3 months if she is free. And a total 9 plus 3, 12 months. Because there is possibility that she may be pregnant and the possibility that she is not. So that possibility is to be ruled out, which will only be possible once 9 months elapse. So once it becomes clear after 9 months that she is not pregnant, then after that she will observe the idda of a woman who does not menstruate, which is 3 months. So 9 plus 3 is 12 months. Although the Fuqaha considered the maximum duration of pregnancy to be 4 years, they did not require her to wait for 4 years. Instead, they required her to wait for the usual duration, which is 9 months. And if it returns, her menses returns during those 9 months period, then obviously she will count it. She will count or begin her counting uh, uh, with respect to the 3 cycles. If it comes within that period, if it does not come, then 9 months and the 9 months also end. Then after that, she will wait 3 months. And if it's established that she is not pregnant, then she must then observe an additional waiting period of 3 months if she is a free woman and only 2 months if she is a slave woman. So for a free woman, 9 plus 3, 12. For a slave woman, 9 plus 2, 11 months. So for a free woman, the total waiting period is therefore 1 year. Then he says, وَإِنْ عَلِمَتْ مَا رَفَعَهُ. This is another category within the same. Earlier category was she did not know the reason. What happened, what stopped the menses, she did not know the reason. But the second category is the woman who knows the reason, that this is the reason, either because of sickness or it is because of breastfeeding or something. lam tazal fi iddatin hatta yaudu. In this case, she will wait, she will remain in idda until either the period returns. If it comes back, she will wait according to a number of three, according to the cycles. أو تصير عايسة فتعتد عدتها. And either two things could happen. The one who does not, the one who knows that why it stopped. She knows either because of illness or because of breastfeeding or whatever reason. But she knows the doctor says this is the reason because of which it is not coming. The cause is known. So she cannot immediately be instructed to observe a 3 month waiting period because she has not yet reached the age of 50 plus, nor can she presently count menstrual cycle because she is not menstruating. So what to do in this case? She must therefore wait. She must therefore wait and for the cycle to return. If even if this takes a very long time, doesn't matter. But the maximum time she has to wait is until she reaches the age of 50. After that, if it doesn't come, she will count 3 months because now she has turned Aisa and she will shift to the second category or the third category, which we discussed earlier. So, according to the Fuqaha view, the view of the Fuqaha, or according to the juristic view being explained here, the age of menopause is 50 years. When she reaches 50, she observes a waiting period of 3 months. Okay, so either she will wait if it comes, if the cycle continues and she is waiting, and all of a sudden, her period they start. In that case, she will simply count the periods. If it doesn't come, she will wait until she reaches the age of 50. After she reaches the age of 50, she will go to the second or the third category, which we discussed earlier. This one, fourth category. She will this woman will simply shift to the fourth category. In this case, now since she has become Aisa, so now she will observe only 3 months of waiting period. Now we have the sixth category. السادسة امرأة المفقود تتربص ما تقدم في ميراثه ثم تعتد كمتوفى عنها ولا تفتقر لحاكم. Sixth category is the wife of a missing husband, a missing man. A missing man is one whose whereabouts and conditions are unknown. His news has completely ceased and no trace of him can be found. For example, a woman's husband travels and never returns. His wife cannot be expected to remain bound to the marriage for the rest of her life. unable to marry. No, the Sharia therefore provides specific rulings for her situation. The author Rahimahullah says the wife of a missing man must wait for the period previously mentioned in concerning his inheritance. In the chapter of inheritance, we already talked about the case of mafqud. The disappearance of a person is of two types: a disappearance in circumstances where death is more likely, and disappearance in circumstances where safety and survival are more likely. Now, what if the disappearance where death is more likely? This occurs when a man disappears in circumstances that ordinarily lead to death. For example, he enters a war or travels to a battlefield to fight, after which all news of him ceases. So his death is not certain, but it is apparent and more likely outcome that he will die. In this situation, his wife waits for 4 years from the time he was last known to be alive. So the relevant date is the last confirmed report of his life, such as his last telephone call, or such as the last time someone saw him. So we know the date, or any other reliable confirmation that he was alive. 4 years are then counted from that particular date. 4 years. Once the 4 years have passed, his death is legally presumed. The legal consequences of death then take effect. His estate is distributed, yani the miras, and his wife begins the waiting period of a widow, 4 months and 10 days after completion of 4 years. So she will observe waiting period of 4 months and 10 days after the 4 years have elapsed. After his last known, presence. So after that, 4 months and 10 days. All other legal rulings resulting from death will also apply. This is the case of disappearance where the death is more likely. Now, disappearance where safety is more likely. This occurs when a person travels in normal circumstances that ordinarily indicate safety. He is not traveling to a war zone. He travels for trade to a country where there is no war, or where there are no earthquakes, where there are no disasters, or where there are no other apparent dangers. But still, his news later ceases. In this case, the likelihood that he died is weaker, so it would not be reasonable to declare him dead after only 4 years. The ruling is that the period is calculated until he would have reached 90 years of age from his birth. This is the reason he says, uh, if, for example, if he disappeared at the age of 60, and this man, when he disappeared, he was 60 years old. So, how long the woman must wait? 30 years before she could observe Iddah. She must wait 30 more years, so that after 30 more years have elapsed, the man's age would be now 90. So if he disappeared at 70, 20 years are to be allowed before the woman could observe the Iddah. Likewise, and in 90 years, this is because the basic presumption is that he is alive, and his wife should not be married to another man, nor should his estate be distributed in miras while he is legally presumed to be living. If he reappears, the matter is resolved. If reliable news of his death arrives, his wife observes the waiting period from the actual date of his death. If news reaches her that he died 1 year earlier, her waiting period is calculated from the date of death, not from the date on which she learned of it. And if today the woman comes to know that for example, husband died 1 year back, then she already has completed the waiting period. She need not to observe the waiting period from the day she receives the information. So the waiting period following that begins from the death itself, not from the knowledge of the death. Then the author Rahimullah says, she must then observe the waiting period of a widow, and this does not require the ruling of a judge. It does not require a ruling. According to this view, neither the waiting period nor the legal presumption of that requires judicial intervention. The family may calculate the prescribed period themselves without needing a judge to issue a ruling, because they know when did they receive the last information about the man that he was alive. From that day, they will count 4 years. Once that 4 year period is over, the man will be considered to be dead, and then the woman will observe 4 months 10 days of waiting period. Likewise, the tarika will be distributed, and all other rulings related to dead person will apply to this man. Now, what if this missing husband returns after his wife remarries? He says, فَإِن تَزَوَّجَتْ ثُمَّ قَدِمَ الْأَوَّلُ قَبْلَ دُخُولٍ بِهَا رُدَّتْ لَهُ وُجُوبًا. Now, if this woman who this yani, the woman of a missing person, if she marries another man and the first husband returns before the second husband has consummated the marriage, she must be returned to the first husband. Ruddat lahu wujuban, before the dukhul, must return to the first husband. Suppose a woman's husband disappears in circumstances where death is more likely. So she waits for 4 years, and then observes the iddah of 4 months and 10 days, and after that she is permitted to remarry. So she marries another man, but then her first husband unexpectedly returns before the second husband consummates the marriage. Then now the ruling will depend on whether the second husband consummated the marriage or not. So if the second marriage was not consummated, if the second husband did not consummate the marriage, the second marriage is annulled and she must return to her first husband. And she must be returned to the first husband. But if the second marriage was consummated, then the first husband is given choice. وَبَعْدَ دُخُولٍ لَهُ بعد دخول له أغزها بالعقد الأول ولا يتعو حتى تنقضي عدة الثاني وله تركها له. This first ha is going back to the this first dhamir ha is going back to the first husband, while the second ha, this lahu ha in the lahu, is going back to the second husband. So this time this first husband has two choices, two options. The first option is to insist upon taking his wife. The first option is that if he wishes, and after the dukhul, and the second husband consummated the marriage. In that case, the first option the husband has is to take the wife back. But he need not to do another marriage contract. With the first marriage contract itself, he can take her back. But if he takes her after the second husband has consummated the marriage, then he cannot have physical relationship with her until she completes the iddah of the second husband. She must complete the iddah from the because she did second marriage. So the second marriage is treated as annulled, and this woman must observe a waiting period from the second husband. And once that waiting period ends, in order to confirm whether she became pregnant or not, in order to ensure that to avoid the lineages getting mixed, so she must observe a waiting period if the marriage was consummated, and after that only the first husband can have physical relationship with her. The second option for the first husband is to walahu tarkuha lahu. Or the first husband has another option of leaving her for the second husband. Yani, okay, he says, no, I don't want her back now, you can keep. So he's entitled, in that case, he is entitled to ya khuzu qadra sadaqi allazi ataha. In this case, he is entitled to recover from the second husband an amount, yani the mahar which he gave to this woman. He is entitled to recover this sadaq or the mahar from the second husband that he had originally given her. And this judgment was issued by Usman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. And if the first husband relinquishes his claim to her, the second husband must conclude a new marriage contract with her. For yujaddidu sani aqdahu. Now, if the first husband decides not to leave her for the second husband, then in that case, the second husband must enter into new marriage contract with that woman. Although such situations they may appear unusual, they can and have occurred historically. The Islamic Sharia contains rulings for every event or circumstance and conceivable situation. ومن مات زوجها أو طلق غائبا اعتدت منذ الفرقة وإن لم تحد. Now, if a woman's husband dies or a woman's absent husband dies, yani mafqud, we are still talking about the mafqud, the one who is absent, the one who disappears. Now, if a woman's husband dies or divorces her, she observes her waiting period from the time of the separation, even if she did not observe mourning. And if an absent husband dies, the wife's waiting period begins from the actual date of his death. As we said earlier, if the information of the death of husband receives after 1 year and the woman comes to know that this man died 1 year back, then there is no iddah because she already have completed the iddah. So her waiting period must begins from the date on which the death occurred. Likewise, if he divorces her while absent, her waiting period begins from the date on which the divorce occurred or when he pronounced the divorce. If he divorced her 1 year ago, but she only learns of it now, and her prescribed waiting period is already passed, according to the sixth category of women, which category she falls in, according to that, if she already has completed her waiting period, she is no longer in waiting period now. She has completed it. The waiting period is thus calculated from the actual occurrence of the separation, whether it is death or divorce, not from the time she learned about it. even if she did not observe mourning, and it means that the validity and calculation of her waiting period are not dependent upon whether she actually began observing the prescribed mourning practices or not. Then he says وعدة موضوعة بشبهة أو زنا أو نكاح فاسد كمطلقة. Now these kind of women who the waiting period of a woman who was subjected to physical relationship by mistake بشبهة أو zina, adultery, or through a invalid marriage contract. Now, what is the iddah of these kind of women? It is exactly same like a divorced woman. Intercourse by mistake, it refers to, for example, to a man having intercourse with a woman whom he mistakenly believed to be his lawful wife when she was not. Likewise, if a woman committed zina waliyazbillah and then wished to marry, she must observe a waiting period equal to death of a divorced woman. The same applies to intercourse resulting from an invalid marriage contract, the fasid marriage contract. For example, the marriage contract which occurred without a wali. So, if this woman, if she is separated or something happens, then they will observe the waiting period of a mutallaqa, a divorced woman. Her waiting period is therefore determined according to the same categories previously explained. If she is a free woman who menstruates, she observes three menstrual cycle. If she belongs to another category, her waiting period is determined according to the relevant details which were discussed earlier. Now, ومن تزوجت في عدتها لم تنقطع حتى يطأها فإذا فارقها بنت على عدة الأول ثم استأنفتها للثاني. Now, marriage during waiting period. Marriage which was done, though it is impermissible, but for example, if it happens. So he says if a woman marries during her waiting period, then her first waiting period does not cease unless the second husband has physical relationship with her. If he then separates from her, she completes the waiting period of the first husband and then begins the new waiting period for the second. Now, marriage during waiting period is prohibited and invalid, as you know. If a woman nevertheless marries while observing the waiting period of a previous husband, the ruling depends upon whether the second man had consummated the marriage with her or not. If the second man did not consummate the marriage with her, then her original waiting period continues uninterrupted. Yani if the woman, while in waiting period, this woman married a second man. Now, what will happen to the waiting period? It depends whether the marriage was consummated by the second husband or not. If he has not consummated the marriage, then her idda will continue normally. The first idda of the first husband, it will continue without interruption. If he did not have physical, yani if he did not consummated marriage with her, the calculation of the first waiting period is, yani it will continue. He says, وَمَنْ تَزَوَّجَتْ فِي عِدَّتِهَا لَمْ تَنْقَطِعْ حَتَّى يَطَعَهَا. Yani this waiting period will not break, will not discontinue until the second husband has physical relationship with her. Then only it will cease to exist. For example, this woman married in her idda. So an idda is continuing. Idda is continuing 1 month, 2 month, and she married within the idda period only. For example, her husband died, so her waiting period is 4 months and 2 days, 10 days. After 2 months, she marries, though it is impermissible and it is invalid, but she did anyway. So in this idda period, will the idda period ceases to or come to an end? No, it will not. Until when? Until the second husband consummates the marriage. For example, they married, and this woman married in the second month of idda. So there are still 2 months and 10 days remaining. So she married in the second month. So from that period, Idda continues. So the second husband, did not consummate the marriage in the second month, in the third month. So this Idda will continue. The moment he consummates the marriage, for example, he consummates the marriage in the fourth month. After the fourth month completes, here the Idda will cease, break. And she has completed 4 months. 10 days are still left. This is what it means. So now here, uh, the Idda will it cease. فإذا فارقها بنت على عدة الأول. Now when the second man separates from her, for example, if the second husband separates from her, what will happen? Now she must deal with two waiting periods. She first completes the remaining waiting period. See, here we said the second husband consummated the marriage after completion of 4 months, which means 10 days are left. Now the second husband also separated from her for whatever reason, maybe death or divorce, whatever. So when the second husband was separated from her, now there is an idda for second husband also, but what to do. She has one idda left. So first she will complete the remaining 10 days from the idda of the first husband. She will complete first 10 days which are remaining, and now she will complete the idda of the second husband, depending on whether she was divorced or he died. So if he died again after 10 days, she will count another 4 months and 10 days for the second husband. Summasta anaftaha lisani. This is what it means. So in this situation, if a woman marries a husband during her waiting period, these are the legal rulings applicable. Now finally we are entering into the chapter of Ihdaad, which is mourning during the waiting period. Ihdaad or mourning is different from the waiting period itself. Ihdaad means refraining from adornment and observing certain prescribed restrictions for a specific period. A woman observing Ihdaad is called a Muhidda. And she is the woman whose husband has died and who therefore refrains from adornment and beautification. The author Rahimahullah said, Yajibu ihdadun fi iddati wafatin. So ihdad, mourning, is obligatory during the waiting period following the husband's death only. A woman whose husband has died has two obligations. Number one, she must observe the waiting period of 4 months and 10 days. Number two, during the waiting period, she must observe ihdad, which means she will not adorn herself. So mourning is obligatory. This is based on the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, لا يحل لامرأة تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر أن تحد على ميت فوق ثلاث ليال إلا على زوج أربعة أشهر وعشرة. It is not lawful for a woman who believes in Allah and the last day to mourn for a deceased person for more than 3 nights, except for her husband, for whom she mourns for 4 months and 10 days, according to the ayah of the Quran. Now, what does Ihdaad mean? The author Rahimahullah says, وَهُوَ تَرْكُ مَا يَدْعُ إِلَى نِكَاحِهَا وَيُرَغَّبُ فِي النَّظْرِ إِلَيْهَا. What is Ihdaad? Ihdaad, it is to refrain from everything that may encourage marriage proposals or attract people to look at her because of adornment. Therefore, she does not adorn herself. She must refrain from, what are the things she must refrain from? For example, min zinatin, wa tibin, wa tahsinin, wa nahwi hina'in, wa masbughin li zinatin, wa huliyin, wa kuhlin aswad. These are the things she should apply. She should refrain from applying kohal, black color kohal in the eyes. She should refrain from wearing cosmetics. She should refrain from using perfume. Obviously, we are talking about using perfume in the house, within the house. A woman can use perfume within the house, but she is not allowed to use perfume outside of the house. Rasulullah ﷺ compared such woman to a zania, to a fornicator, an adulterer. Then what she must avoid also is to apply henna or similar forms of beautification. Also wearing dyed colorful clothes which are intended for adornment. Likewise wearing jewelry. All these things she should avoid. She refrains from all these matters throughout the full period of 4 months and 10 days, which is known as Ihdaad. Then he says, وَتَجِبُ عِدَّةُ وَفَاتٍ فِي الْمَنْزِلِ. Now, the waiting period following the husband's death must be observed in the home in which it became obligatory. In the house of husband, she should spend 4 months and 10 days. This means that she should not leave that home except for a legitimate need. حيث وجبت وإن تحولت لخوفها أو قهرا أو لحق انتقلت حيث شاءت. Now, if she moves, it is permissible for this woman, as we said, for a legitimate need, she can go out. Now, if she moves because of fear, compulsion, or the rights of another person, then in that case she may move wherever she wishes. For example, she may need to leave because she fears for her safety in the house of the husband, or she is forcibly removed from the property, or the tenancy has ended. They were tenant and the tenancy has ended, and now the owner of the house wants them to leave or vacate the house, or the owners of the property require it back for whatever reason. Maybe it is a property of inheritance which is to be distributed among the inheritors, or any other valid reason exists. In such cases, she may move to another home and complete the remainder of her waiting period there. She may relocate to whichever appropriate place she chooses, even her parents' house. ولها الخروج نهارا لحاجتها فقط وتعصم بترك إحداد وتنقضي العدة بمضي الزمان. A widow observing the waiting period may leave the house during the daytime for a genuine need, lihajatiha, for a genuine need only, but not at night without necessity. But not at night without necessity. Examples of legitimate needs include obtaining some medical treatment, visiting a doctor, attending a hospital appointment, or dealing with other essential matter that cannot reasonably be avoided. She may leave only to extent required by her need. Now, what will happen if she fails to observe the morning Ihdaad? He says, "Watasam bitarki ihdaadin." A woman is sinful if she deliberately abandons Ihdaad. However, her waiting period still ends when the prescribed period of time has elapsed. Yani, the waiting period and mourning are therefore separate obligations. The validity and completion of the waiting period are not dependent upon whether she correctly observed the mourning or not. For example, if a woman refuses to observe Ihdad but remains within the prescribed waiting period, her waiting period is still valid and it ends when its duration has passed. However, she is sinful for neglecting the obligation of mourning. A woman who has been revocably divorced and must also a woman who has been revocably divorced must also observe certain restrictions similar to those of a widow in mourning. And this is one of the rulings that is rarely practiced properly today. A revocably divorced woman, yani a woman who is in raj'a after first and the second divorce, must observe her waiting period in her husband's home, and she may not leave it without a genuine need. However, unlike the widow observing ihdat, she is permitted to adorn herself. In fact, it is recommended in her case. The difference is that the revocably divorced woman may beautify herself, but she should not leave the marital home except during the daytime or a legitimate need. She may not leave without necessity. This is based upon the statement of Allah in the Quran, "La tukhrijuhunna min buyutihinna wala yakhrujna illa an yatina bi fahishatin mubayyana." This is the only case when she is allowed to go. In fact, she will be sent out of the house if she commits a clear immorality. So with this, we have come to the end of this bab concerning or chapter concerning or fasl concerning ihdad. Next, in the next class, we will begin with babu al istibra. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك السلام عليكم